Hey y'all, it's Care. Welcome to my 2022 TBR video. I've made a list of 12 books that I absolutely have to read this year, and I'm really excited to share them with you today. I like to break my yearly TBRs into 12 books because I find that that's a little bit more manageable if I can reason it out in my head of, oh, that's just like one book per month. I might read all 12 in January, I might sprinkle them throughout the year. But before we get into the list, I want to take a minute to thank the sponsor of today's video, Book of the Month. Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers whose mission is to help promote new and emerging authors while also helping readers find books that they're absolutely gonna love. Each month, the Book of the Month team vets hundreds of titles in order to give readers a curated list of reading selections that include new and early released titles. You know, sometimes it can feel difficult or overwhelming to keep up with all of the new release titles throughout the year, but with Book of the Month, they do the research for you and you just pick the monthly selection that sounds like something that you want to read. This service is completely risk-free, meaning that you can skip any month, anytime, and you will not be charged, but you're not gonna want to skip. Like, there's always something that you're gonna want to read from these selections. And they have the best prices ever for new hardcover fiction. You can get your first book now for just $9.99 using code Let's Go when you sign up. The link is right down there in my description box if you want to go ahead and check out their site. My choice for this month definitely would have been Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This is a thriller novel about a group of 20-somethings who goes out to this remote but beautiful island, but then once they get out there, they realize they might not be alone because people start disappearing. Other selections for this month include Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho, which is a collection of short stories featuring female friendship. Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly, a debut romance featuring a non-binary character and a cooking competition. The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis, a historical fiction novel filled with family drama and set at an art museum. Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson, an emotional contemporary fiction novel of siblings' reconciliation after a family tragedy. And then we have an add-on selection for this month called The Maid by Nita Prose. Along with your monthly selection, you can also choose up to 2 add-ons each month to add to your box. This one is a quirky whodunit mystery book about a maid who finds a hotel guest dead in his hotel room and then also finds herself in the middle of the police investigation. So you can go to bookofthemonth.com or click the link in my description box to sign up now. Just make sure to use code Let's Go to get your first book for $9.99. Thank you so much again to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. All right, let's go ahead and jump straight into this list. I can't wait any longer. The first book I absolutely have to read this year is called The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This takes place at an elderly living community, and each Thursday, a group of the people who live there get together, I think in the puzzle room, and they try to solve mysteries, but then they find themselves in the middle of a very real, I think it's a murder investigation. So these senior citizens slash amateur sleuths have to team up together to try to solve what's actually happening here. Also, I know that I just mentioned murder, and murder is even in the title of this book, but there's something that's screaming cozy mystery to me about this one. I don't know. It is part of a series. I know the second book is already out, and I think that if this is something that I enjoy, I'm gonna just immerse myself in the series and read the second book immediately. Next is a book called Bullet Train by Kotaro Isaka. I started this book the other night and made it to page, oh, I made it to 86. That's pretty good. Immediately ripped the dust jacket off and couldn't find it before starting this video, so I'll put the picture up here. But Bullet Train is a really super popular book that was first published in Japan, and it has since been translated to English, and it's actually going to be a major motion picture this year, but I didn't know that when I got this book. That's like a little cherry on top of the cake. And by the way, the movie's gonna have big stars like Brad Pitt, Sandra Bullock, Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I'm obsessed with personally. But anyway, this is a book about 5 assassins who are all on one train going from point A to point B. I've read enough of this book to see why each assassin thinks that they're on this train and like what their mission is, but to my understanding, as the story continues, they're going to find out that maybe there are more connections or more things that bring them together than they realize. This book is very quirky and very satirical, and it has a really distinctive Japanese feel it's hard for me to explain other than saying it reads like other books that I've read that have been translated from Japanese. It kind of has that same sense of humor, which does work for me. I would just be hesitant in recommending it to a really broad audience because I think that this might be a little bit tedious or maybe even like annoying to read for some. For now, my opinion on it is that I think it's funny. I think that we've had some good action sequences so far, and I am really intrigued to see like if these assassins are each going to complete their missions. Next, we have This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno, and I honestly don't know too much about this one, but I'm really hoping that it's gonna read like an episode of Black Mirror. I think there are definitely gonna be some technology gone wrong elements going on here, but I do know it is about a husband who has recently lost his wife, and now he's kind of on the run. This is a horror book, and I think it's gonna have one of my favorite elements a horror book can have, which is when like supernatural or paranormal, or what looks to be in this case, in this book, technological horror, ties in with the very real everyday horror of dealing with trauma and grief. Ari Aster, who wrote some of my favorite movies, Midsommar and Hereditary, I feel like does this very well. So I'm hoping that Gus Moreno is gonna pull something off similar to like the vibes of those movies. No, not the vibes, but just the concept of tying in grief with horror. I hope that that's how this book goes down. Again, with the Black Mirror feel too. I don't know. I don't know why I'm trying to review these books. I've not read them yet. Okay, also, I really want to read When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen this year. This is another horror book, but this one's gonna be dealing with themes of racial tension. This is about a Black woman who has left her racist hometown, but she does return to her hometown when her best friend from childhood is going to get married. So she's going to this wedding, and once she gets down there, she realizes that it's going to be held on this, or at this event center that previously was a plantation. So it's just really sketchy that the friend has chosen this venue for her wedding. But let me read you the last little bit on the back here. It says that these friends are forced to acknowledge their history together and to save themselves from what is to come. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to make this horror, but I'm hoping there are gonna be ghosts. Next, I really wanna read the book 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. I am obsessed with Catherine Ryan Howard right now. I don't know why I haven't found her sooner. And I know that 56 Days is actually her most popular book. So let me give you, before I tell you about that one, let me give you a quick rundown of what's been happening recently. So I recently read a book called The Nothing Man and loved it, okay? And when I was like, let me see what else she's written, I found this book called Rewind, and I started it today or yesterday, and I am obsessed with that one too, and I'm about to finish it. So then obviously I was like, all right, let's keep going. What else has she written? I saw 56 Days and was like, oh my gosh. So there was a lot of buzz about this one when it first came out because it actually takes place during the COVID-19 pandemic and during the beginning of lockdown, I think in Ireland. I know that the other two books I've read from her have been set in Ireland, so I'm assuming 56 Days is as well. And I know that there is a police investigation, and at the beginning of the book, we know that someone from a couple has died, but I don't think we know who it is. And the book backtracks, and we learn that these two people meet and start dating right before lockdown happens, and then they decide to quarantine together after only knowing each other for a short period of time. When this book first came out, I was a little bit hesitant because I thought, I'm living COVID every day. I don't know if I want to read about it while I'm escaping, but after reading these other two books that she's written, I have to know her take on the pandemic, and then like a thriller set during these very strange and terrifying times. On a very similar note, I want to continue reading another author that I've recently discovered for myself, Alice Feeney. I really want to read I Know Who You Are by Alice Feeney. This one sounds really good to me. All I know about this one is that it's about this actress who has a secret, and she's paranoid that somebody knows her secret. That is all I need to know going into this one. I really love both Rock, Paper, Scissors and Sometimes I Lie, last year. It feels so weird saying last year. I just read those like 2 months ago. I do know that this book is going to include the plot point of having a missing husband, which is something that I quite enjoy in my thrillers. And even though I've seen kind of mixed reviews or maybe just like lukewarm reviews for this one, I'm trying to read Feeney's entire backlist this year, so gonna be starting with this one. I'm also really looking forward to reading Reprieve by James Hahn Matson. Okay, so I have heard that this one is a social horror. I don't really know what that means, but I don't go into this one thinking you're gonna get traditional horror. I think that it might be a little bit of literary horror suspense, something like that maybe. But the reason that this one made it onto this list is because it features an escape room, which is something that I have never read about in a book, but it seems like a genius idea. I love a locked door thriller, and this seems like literally a locked door thriller. Like, it's an escape house, like a house with multiple escape rooms in it. This book features a trial, and at the beginning of the book we find out that someone has died in the escape room. It sounds wild, like a man breaks into the escape room and they think it's part of the escape room, but it's not. And this man is a murderer and kills somebody in the room. So that sounds really, really, really intense. I have heard that we're gonna get in-depth background on each of the people in this escape room situation, so we're not necessarily in a super isolated setting, but I think that these backgrounds are going to be broken up cell by cell of the escape room. So we're gonna get short bursts of really intense, dramatic, and action-packed scenes, but then kind of drip back into that more literary feel. I'm sure that's why they're calling this a social horror. Horror? Why'd I say it like that? I love a character study. I love slow, tension building, suspenseful reads. So this sounds like it's gonna be up my alley. I just wanna make sure everyone has it right in their minds that this one doesn't need that traditional horror label. Moving right along to one that I don't remember how this one came onto my radar, but it's been on there for a while and I'm really excited about it. It's called The Interpreter by Suki Kim. Now this book was published, I want to say in 2003, and it's about this Korean American woman who is an interpreter for a New York City court system, and she has just turned 29 years old, and readers soon learn that in the past her parents were brutally murdered, and it had been long assumed that they were murdered as the result of a break-in to their store. But now this woman, Susie, has reason to believe, like she has this new lead to think that maybe something else was going on. So she is like suddenly drug into the Korean underworld of just all things bad in order to get to the bottom of the mystery surrounding her parents' deaths. That sounds amazing. I read the first few pages of this when I first bought it, and I remember that the prose was stunning and it was very neat and not in a pretentious way. It's beautiful writing, but it's easy to understand. We've just got a really sophisticated tone going on here, and I think that's just gonna pair so well with this poignant type of mystery. Okay, shifting away from mysteries and thrillers for just a second. We'll be back, but for a second I want to talk about To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara. I'm thrilled. This is my most highly anticipated read for 2021, but also of the past like 3 or 4 years. This is the same author who wrote A Little Life, which is my #1 all-time favorite book of all time. I love it and I talk about it all the time. And this book comes out on January 11th. I actually do have an advanced listener's copy for this book right now, but I think I'm just gonna wait to actually read the book physically with the physical book that comes in. So this is a very ambitious work of literary fiction. It's gonna actually span over the course of 300 years or more, and the book is gonna be told in 3 different parts. The first part's going to take place, I think, in 1893 New York, and then we're gonna get 1993, and then we're gonna get 2093. So we have past, present-ish, still past, but you know, 1993, that wasn't that long ago. Oh my gosh, that was like almost 30 years ago. And then obviously we're gonna have New York in the future as well. We're gonna be experiencing people's fear, love, shame, needs, loneliness, just everything that makes us who we are. And I'm really hoping to feel a lot of pain from this book. I have heard it is not quite as emotional as A Little Life was, which honestly, what is? But I think it's still gonna be really hard-hitting and really gonna pack a punch. This is a huge book, so don't be surprised if when January 11th rolls around, I spend a couple weeks just reading this one, because it's gonna take me some time, but I'm willing to invest because I'm so excited about it. Another one I'm really looking forward to, but that's also outside of my typical reading comfort zone, is The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. This sounds hilarious, and my friend from BookTube, Cot from Cot Reads a Lot, just said that this was one of her favorite books of 2021. So this is nonfiction. This is a collection of essays where John Green is just picking things from our world, like Piggly Wiggly or the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, and he's talking about them and he's gonna teach the readers about these things, and then at the end he straight up reviews them on a 5-star scale. Like, he might give the QWERTY keyboard a 2-star rating and then explains why. This is just a brilliant idea. I think it sounds so lighthearted, so much fun, and I think it'd be really fun to get in my rotation of reading it before bed so that I don't have nightmares at night anymore. I know I keep saying this, but this next one has really been calling out my name. It's actually another book of the month selection. This one is called A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. When I last described this book to you, I didn't have a full concept of the layers of this story, but I do now, so buckle up. This book is about a man named Travis Wren, and he has the talent or the ability to locate missing people by just touching an object, I guess, that was theirs or that pertains to them in some way. So this children's author who writes dark children's literature, that's what the inside flap here said, she goes missing. So when he tries to find her, he is taken out to this really reclusive type community, and once he gets out there, he also goes missing. So now in the present, someone who is from that community finds this missing man's truck and then kind of launches this investigation to try to get to the bottom of where are these people going, where are they disappearing, and like, where are they now? And the last book on this list is called The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. My friend Haley Hughes sent this book to me. Thank you so much, Haley. This book is the story of a woman whose family relocates from, I think, Chicago to a smaller Texas town, and once she gets down there, she kind of falls into this group, this clique of women who call themselves the Hunting Wives, and their hobby together is recreational shooting. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I don't know anything about shooting or guns. Actually, speaking of nightmares, I have nightmares about weapons like this like every night. So I was at first hesitant about The Hunting Wives, but I'm excited about it now, I think. So the body of a teenage girl is found out in the woods in the same place where the Hunting Wives regularly meet. So now this new woman in this town has found herself in the middle of a murder investigation, and her life spirals out of control as a result of that. I feel like there have been so many books I've talked about tonight where the punchline was, and she finds herself in the middle of a murder investigation. That's just a theme I'm really looking to run with next year, or this year in 2022. I just noticed too, Riley Sager blurbed this. This says, sultry, salacious, and utterly unpredictable. You'll devour it. That was a good little quote, Riley. Okay, that is the video. That's the list. Don't forget, if you would like to sign up for Book of the Month, you can click on the link in my description box and use code Let's Go to get your first book for $9.99. As always, thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye.